You're good to go.
Hi, my name's Ingrid Johanns, and I'm going to talk to you today about an experience I had several years back launching ChevronTexico.com. And so I'm going to tell you the little story of that. I was working at Chevron. I had just gotten a job there and had just come out of the dot-com bubble. Basically, it had burst and was deflating actively. And I joined Chevron during that time. And I had just left a really exciting company called SF Interactive, a really wonderful agency. And I had been a project manager for them, a senior level project manager. So here I was at Chevron, and a much different environment than a fast-paced little interactive agency. I was in a big corporation, and the position I had there, though, was in a group that handled a lot of their internal websites. And so my position was to do this project management for websites, but within the company. So it was this little group that was kind of like an agency, but it was nestled inside of Chevron. So there I was managing web projects for them. And because I had come from this external agency and had joined this group, I had been used to being in this fast-paced, high-pressure environment of lots of moving parts and kind of in more of a startup mode, because SF Interactive was still relatively small at the time. So I joined this group, and I had a lot of energy and was ready to go do projects. And I come in, and it's a little slower going, and it's a little more relaxed, and it's a big company, and just a very different culture. So I was sitting there and going, boy, I have all this energy to take on something. So I enlisted this other woman who had joined, who also came from an outside interactive agency, and we decided to go after some more work for the group and to get some more projects for this group. That was part of our job too, was to go out and talk to other people in the company and have them get to know us and know what we can do for them and do work for them. So we had been doing that, but really probably one of the more exciting groups for us to go and talk with was the group called Public Affairs. They were the group that handled the externally facing corporate website, and which is a really highly visible, sort of exciting project. So we went over there, we talked to them, and at first we weren't exactly welcomed with open arms. They kind of said, oh, you guys in our company, we're just this little podunk interactive group that wasn't really taken very seriously. They were used to working with very high-end, very expensive, very good interactive agencies externally. So the idea of working with the internal group to Chevron was sort of like, well, maybe we can do a couple little things with you. And but here was me, who had just come from the outside, and same with a few of our other team members. We were all itching for work to do, so we went and we talked to them, and we kept wooing them. Basically, we'd go over and we'd meet with them and tell them about what we could do for them, and eventually they started to listen. Eventually they started to give us some little things to nibble on. And what was going on at the time when I was doing this was Chevron and Texaco were planning a merger, and it had been in the works for quite a while, and all the details were getting hashed out. And of course, one of the details for this merger is the new website and a new company name and a new company brand and everything. The new company name was going to be Chevron Texaco. And so they needed a new website, ChevronTexico.com. So Public Affairs was working on this, and they had their external agency that they were working with in terms of making designs for it, creating everything for it. So they had already had this in the works when we started talking with them. And as we started showing them our competence and what we could do for them and just our energy, they started paying us more attention, and somehow at the same time, I think they were getting a little dissatisfied with the agency they were working with. I'm not sure in which ways that was. I wasn't really privy to that, but at one point they decided, you know what, we're going to bring all this web work internal now, and we're going to use our group, the group I was managing web projects for, which meant the project basically came into my lap. And so at that point, we had this huge project that we had to do. And it was an exciting, very exciting time. And we still worked with the external agency. They were definitely our partner in it. And in fact, it felt like we had partnerships throughout the company for this launch. There was public affairs, and there was the external agency, and there was the IT group that actually handles the servers and how the website was literally going to be launched. And one of the interesting things about this project was I had never had a project where there was a very hard deadline. I mean, I've had deadlines, and we all like deadlines and respect deadlines, but this one was a firm day one deadline. So when Chevron and Texaco merged and became Chevron Texaco, it was like at midnight in a certain time zone. They became the new company. They needed the old websites to disappear and for Chevron Texaco to replace them. So it was a very firm, clear deadline as to the date and the time that this needed to happen. So we all were scrambling, and it was a very complicated launch in terms of there were so many groups involved. We had the public affairs group, and they were creating copy. So they were in charge of anything that was said on the website, any of the phrasing, any of the words, all the wording. That was their thing. But they were writing it and then sending it over to us. And then we would take it and plop it into the website. And then we had the IT group that we had to coordinate with in terms of making sure they get all the files and they have everything to go and ready. But yeah, it was a huge effort amongst many different groups. And so this was, a very, very large project. And my role in it was to coordinate, basically make sure it happens, make sure it all comes together. So make sure we get all the copy, that all the copy is proofread, that when it is plopped into the website, that there's no errors, there's no strange things popping up. So we built a QA team overnight. I hired a bunch of QA people and proofreaders and even some other developers to help stitch together the website. Luckily, all the design work was mainly done already, so it was just building out the pages. And in terms of, this was a project done quite a while ago, but the main lessons I took away from this project were that having a can-do attitude can take you really far, because had I sat in the little interactive group and just been content with, our little projects that we were doing, that's probably all we would have done. I don't think they would have asked us to handle this big project, which was so exciting and so fun. So I think getting out there and showing what you can do and saying, hey, we can do this, we can take this on. The other part of that piece is actually building the relationships between people. So we actually went out and met these people in public affairs and got to know them and had them get to know us. So those are my biggest takeaways from that big project, as complicated as it was having a really positive attitude of, we can do this, it's complicated, but we can do it, and building up those relationships. So, yes. So in summary, that's what I wanted to share, was these principles can apply today, even though this was a project from many, many years ago.